Yo, call your girl a sailor the way she's about to moon me. Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Games Cage today, and only today. That's right, we are here with Sonic Movie 1 Revisited. We are almost at the time of awakening. That's right, it's movie 3 is 2 weeks away, and so what I'm going to be doing is just a simple review of Sonic Movie 1 again. Next thing, I'm going to rewatch Sonic Movie 2, review that, and of course, leading into the big, obviously I'm not going to be live reacting to it, but you know, the big watch, big week of Sonic Movie 3 coverage, discussions, and everything. So if you like that, want to see more videos like this, subscribe to your boy and make sure you love and all that shit. Yeah! But let's just get right into it. I kind of want to go with a free flow conversation style for this video. And obviously, you know, because it's a movie, I can't really show scenes necessarily when I'm talking about them. I can show trailers and stuff, but let's talk about it. Sonic Movie 1, released in February of 2020, if you guys remember, actually a Valentine's Day movie. And interesting enough, remember, this was one of the last movies to release in theaters before the big COVID shutdown, right? This movie not only was saved, obviously, by the redesign, but it genuinely was saved by its release date, because had it come out in maybe like March, right, or April, box office numbers would have been much lower. They probably would have had to put it on digital platforms like way sooner, and the budget just would not have been as high, and they would have really, I don't know, we might have been looking at a different world despite having a great movie on our hands. A few interesting tidbits about it. First of all, the movie made over $340 million at the box office, which is pretty incredible. The movie had the biggest opening weekend of any video game movie, which is awesome. And the movie's opening day of 21 million was higher than Detective Pikachu's first day of 20 million. So just, you know, a fun fact, the movie's budget was also $85 million. So they made their money in spades, and also reviewed fairly well for a video game movie. And you got to keep in mind what's interesting about this is this movie came out at the time where there was still that stigma about, you know, video game movies, right? Like, it was, maybe we had Detective Pikachu that was a success, and then it was this. But besides that, remember, we were still in the thick of it, where like it was a joke to make video game movies. It wasn't doing well, which is funny looking back, because now like video game adaptations are everywhere, and they're way better than they've ever been. You know, now we have series like Castlevania out there, right? You have stuff that's really successful like Fallout. You have stuff like Arcane, right? There's left and right, and Mario movie, obviously massive success. Like, we are seeing the rise of video games in the box office, and I think it's because we're starting to get people involved with them that actually care about the source material. And again, remember, with Sonic Movie 1, I don't want to harp on it because this is a topic everyone has talked about 17 million times. The design, right? Originally ugly Sonic design, the biggest marketing beat of all time, where they showed the ugly Sonic. It was a nightmare, went viral for all the wrong reasons, and man, I gotta say, that time was still awful, man. Like, just, I remember my original reaction to that design back in the day, right? And then when they fixed it, just how happy and joyous I felt. Like, it felt like the team actually listened and cared, and they're like, you know what? Like, we're gonna go to the higher-ups and explain to them, yo, we gotta delay this movie a little bit longer and fix the design, because they did delay the movie. The movie was slated for, I believe, October or November of 2019, and then they redid the design, and they ended up delaying it to February. And obviously, you got Tyson Hess on the team to work on the redesign. I think they refilmed some shots, but it's funny when you watch the movie, you could tell some of the shots, and even just movie Sonic and Sonic What is completely different from the model used in movie 2 and 3, and that's because like they were trying to make it fit within the original rigs and moments of the original movie. And needless to say, I mean, this movie was massive for Sonic fans, not just because it was nice to have. I couldn't believe it, and I don't think anyone was gonna believe that a live action Sonic the Hedgehog movie was going to be a success, especially because remember, the movie was in development hell for the longest time. I believe it was announced in like 2014, 2016, where they wanted to do a movie, right? And it was Sony originally that was gonna make the movie, and then they gave it to Paramount, and then Paramount locked in, did their thing. They got Jeff Fowler as the director on it, who originally worked on some of the CG opening stuff for Shadow the Hedgehog. Funny enough, look how far we've come with that. And he has now been working as a director on the trilogy of Sonic movies. And honestly, I have now rewatched Sonic Movie 1, and this is a fun one because I hadn't rewatched Movie 1 since like maybe a year after Movie 1 came out. Like, I don't know, I hadn't rewatched in like 2-3 years. I didn't do a rewatch of it before Sonic Movie 2. I just, you know, had seen it a bunch when it had come out, so I didn't feel the need to. But looking back, I am really happy to say I love this movie. I think it is so much fun, and I feel like now looking back, I can forgive how not Sonic like like it is because of how movie 2 and 3 are. You know, I feel like looking back, you can see this movie was meant to be like, all right, let us try to appeal to the masses. Let's just make something fun that at least keeps Sonic in character, right? Make our little world that we're building here and make a good movie and a fun movie. And I feel like that's what they did, right? At heart, this movie is a buddy cop movie, and it really, I feel like, you know, the runtime is really good. It's not even that long. I think it's like an hour, 40 minutes, even an hour 30 if you don't count credits and stuff. Like, it's a pretty short movie, and I feel like it uses all the time it needs to tell the story. Like, there's no moment that really, like, oh my god, this is the scene that drags out forever, this goes on too long, you know, like, there's no wedding scene moment from movie 2, funny enough, in this movie. Like, everything is kind of like boom, 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 boom. And I think that was, you know, the number one thing they wanted. They're like, all right, how do we appeal to the Sonic fans? Obviously, because we care a little bit about the source material here, but how do we make a fun movie that at least, like, critics and stuff will enjoy and families will go to? I think they did a good job, because basically plot of this movie is Sonic from another world comes to Earth, which, you know, is much like Sonic's plot in general, right? But the way they tackle it here is that Sonic is younger, right? Sonic is a younger soul in these movies, right? And he sort of does not want to reveal himself to the humans, and he's watching them, right? He ends up just looking at what they're doing. He's looking at Tom, you know, and his wife watching movies and hanging out. He's being a little weirdo, right? But obviously he's craving, you know, conversation, right? He's craving talking to people, right? Because he grew up on this planet basically all alone, right? Which I feel like is an underrated concept that people don't talk about enough, about why movie Sonic is the way he is. He is silly, right? It's because literally in the beginning of the movie, he loses his mom, right? You get, you know, the flash through Sonic's world with the Green Hill Zone, right? Where he's hanging out. It's interesting to see like Sonic's planet, because we haven't really been there much. And I really do hope, right, that after movie 3's success, that they have enough budget and CG money to actually want to go and make more movies and plots in Sonic-like areas, right? Because really, what have we gotten? We've gotten like Mushroom Hill Zone technically as another world, and we've gotten Green Hill so far, right? Or wherever, you know, the forest that Sonic grew up in as well in the movies, right? But we haven't really gotten much. And it's kind of crazy to think that like Knuckles was teased right away from movie 1, right? You have the scene where like the hunters are going after Longclaw, who is like, you know, Sonic's caretaker in the movie. And it's cool to see right away you have the Knuckles clan in there, right? They're doing the hunt. And then obviously she tries to protect Sonic, sends him to Earth, and she gets cooked, which, like I said, I think is a very good way to frame Sonic's sort of isolation. Like, you know, from a young age, the kid grew up all alone, right? And he was on planet Earth. He's been watching people live and not being able to reveal himself, right? He has his little man cave, right, where he's reading comics and everything. You can still tell he's trying to be the bundle of joy that we love, right? But I feel like people talk about that aspect of Sonic. It's something I realized, you know, looking back at, I'm like, damn, right, this guy was all alone, right? And so, yeah, he makes a lot of silly references and this and that, but it's probably because it's all he did. You know, he grew up that way. He grew up just watching stuff with people. He wasn't just, I feel like if it was the video game interpretation of Sonic, he would have just grown up running, you know, protecting people, saving the day, but he kind of just grew up as like a kid. He didn't really do any saving besides animals, right? And I like that they sort of, in this movie, I feel like it's definitely not a Sonic movie in plot, but at least like there's some themes, like, you know, you see Sonic right away protecting the turtle, right, wanting to protect animals, right? There's little aspects like that of the character that still remain. I do know some people theorize that Longclaw is maybe still alive because we technically didn't see a body, and the rule of thumb for any movie is like if you don't see a body, they probably, you know, didn't die. But I don't know, man. I feel like I would be kind of upset if they found a way to cop out, say that Longclaw lived, right? But again, I think they've made it pretty clear that she's gone and she will not be coming back. And it's going to be interesting to see now in movie 3 how they handled that discussion with Shadow. Because, you know, Sonic, the difference is like he had a moment, right, where he lost someone, right? He lost someone the same way Shadow did, right? But the difference is like Shadow was like messed with, right? He was experimented on. He was literally cryogenically frozen for over 50 years. Like, the reason for his burning anger is way worse, you know, whereas Knuckles was just trying to apprehend Sonic, right? Shadow wants to destroy the world. He wants revenge on humanity. So it's gonna just be interesting to see Sonic's dynamic being like, hey, I lost someone too. And then Shadow's like, yeah, well, I lost everything, and there are evil people in this world. But where there is good in this world is found in this movie in the little town of Green Hill Zone, where Sonic grows up up watching the cop of this local town, and that is the Donut Lord, aka Tom, right? And his wife, Maddie, right? Sonic just grows up sort of infatuated with these two characters, just enjoys watching their life, their shenanigans, you know what I'm saying? Them watching movies, them watching a Keanu Reeves movie, funny enough, right? Leading into what would become one day, right? But right away, you are introduced to Tom Donald, and man, what a charming character, right? From the beginning, right? Just, you know, even from his intro scene where he's like sitting in the cop car all alone, like trying to, you know, catch a speeding car, but he's just like looking at a turtle, right? Or even silly scenes where he's talking to a literal donut that he put sunglasses on, him hanging around the town talking to little ducks. Like, it's really funny how like they make Tom really charming right away. And even Maddie, like him and Maddie's dynamic, right? His wife, beautiful dynamic, you know, like Tom, one of my favorite moments is like Tom gets the job to actually be a police in San Francisco, right? And then, you know, Maddie has 2 cakes for him. She got him a cake in case they didn't accept him, and a cake in case they did, which I thought like little moments like that just show, you know, how much a person can care for you, right? And I just love that they established them very early on as like a power couple. Like these two really love each other, and she's also a vet, right? Which I actually forgot about watching this movie again, that Maddie being a vet is a big reason why she ends up getting along with the Sonic gang so much, because we see her, you know, with them in movie 2 hanging out. We even see her and Knuckles hanging out with them. Like it's really cool to kind of see that dynamic of why she gets along with them so well. But the plot of the movie really starts with Sonic's sadness, right? There's this one scene that, you know, everybody's always seen, right? Where the baseball scene where Sonic's just playing by himself, which again, really fun dynamics in terms of Sonic speed. I like that, and they kind of actually, you notice how they tone it down in movie 2 and even like from trailers of movie 3, right? Where, yeah, Sonic makes jokes and stuff, but in Sonic movie 1, he's like ADHD pilled. Like he's like, what am I doing? Where am I going? How do I do this? Oh my God, we're gonna do that. Like it's much more of that like high speed, high ADHD energy, which I mean is more kid-like behavior, right? Because we do see in movie 2 and 3, we're getting a bit more of that confident Sonic, right? A little bit of it, not necessarily, we're not at cocky Sonic yet, right? But we are in confident Sonic area, right? And I feel like that became more apparent watching how he is in movie 1. So Sonic is playing baseball with himself across the field, and then, you know, once he wants to give himself a high five, realizing no one's there, running like crazy, causing an electric surge, and literally causing a mass electric blackout in the Pacific, like just the entire, so one entire side of the earth, which puts into perspective just how powerful Sonic is. And I know a lot of people have also discussed the idea that whether it's right for Sonic to have electricity powers. I personally think it's cool, at least in the movie universe. I know some people like don't want video game Sonic to have electricity, but I think it can work. I think it's just about how you handle it, how you do it. So Sonic causes this electric surge, bringing the military together. You have, of course, the iconic Olive Garden guy instituting the Dr. Robotnik, aka Eggman, on the case to find the Blue Devil. And man, I know we all know it, right? Because we've seen these movies and we've already seen shows, but wow, Eggman as Jim Carrey right away from his first scene to me is a show stealer, right? Like I love that he probably in the movie is the most in character of all of them, because we all know Eggman. Eggman, genius, cocky, silly, and kind of a dickhead, right? But still lovable, right? And I think Eggman as Jim Carrey, unbelievable job, bro. Like right away when he gets out of the truck with Agent Stone, he's talking to that military officer, like being like, the number of quantifications of you can understand me, and that means this and that and that. And then like Agent Stone's like, the doctor thinks you're basic, right? And just like those little dynamics of him being like a jerk, telling the officer like, oh wow, you can read at a 4th grade level, good for you, right? And there's one joke where Eggman's like, look what just came out of my egg sack, which is crazy. Like some of the jokes I don't know how they got away with, but right away, man, Jim Carrey's Eggman performance is fantastic. And throughout the movie, it really is fantastic. You can tell in this one, he is not crazy yet. Like he's kind of cuckoo, like he's a little out of it, right? And he's a dickhead, like a massive dickhead, right? But we're not at Eggman yet. You do see a bit of that obviously at the end of the movie when he's in the Mushroom Planet and he starts yelling and losing his mind a bit, but we're not there yet. And God, by the way, his look is so different in this movie, right? You forget how funny it is that he has a fucking fade, right? He's showing the little Italian little curled mustache over there, like he's crazy with it. But really throughout the movie, I mean, the Jim Carrey Eggman performance performance is incredible. I think he does a really good job of, you know, understanding that, like, I gotta catch this hedgehog character and not really being remorseful. He's silly, right? But he's just a dick throughout the movie. And you don't realize until you rewatch just how much of a dynamic him and Tom have. Like, him and Tom go at each other, bro. Like, Tom, you're punching him in the face. They're making jokes with each other. Be like, oh wow, like I remember this one story where Jim Carrey, like, or Eggman calls Tom, and he's just like, hey man, I bullied this kid, right? And he couldn't, you know, he had to eat out of a straw for like an entire year. And then, you know, Tom was like, that's really cool, man. Like, I'm glad you could experience something like that. It's like they have funny dynamic, you know, Eggman just shit talking him. Like, it's funny. If anything, he has more of a crazy dynamic with Tom than he does in Sonic in this movie. And I think in movie 1 especially, I really appreciate how much focus there is on Tom, because now it makes it so that when you get Tom moments in movie 2 and potentially movie 3, it makes it more endearing. I mean, even in movie 2, I feel like some of the best human moments are with Tom, right? Because he's not the one getting married. He's just, you know, trying to help out, right? And he's being fun and he's being helpful, you know, because Sonic essentially becomes his kid, right? And in this movie, it's cool to see Tom sort of just become best friends with Sonic, right? Because essentially what ends up happening, right, is Sonic needs some help. Tom finds him, right? You have the iconic meow shot where he shoots him, gets the tranquilizer gun. Sonic's like, yo, you gotta help me out. You know, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. My rings are trapped on the top of a San Francisco building because of you. So you gotta lock in and help me. Tom, little bit confused, but does get encouraged by his wife to help out animals and stuff. And so they go on a little road trip together. And I gotta say, like, this dynamic between Sonic and Tom is really good in the movie, right? There is one moment people always talk about, and I noticed it on this rewatch, where Sonic gets really mad at Tom, but we'll get to that. I'm skipping beats over here. Early on, one of the scenes is Eggman comes to Tom's house to try to find Sonic. You know, you see Sonic trying to hide, and then you get a little bit of a clash. You know, Tom punching Eggman, Sonic fighting one of his drones, and you can tell we're not in locked-in Sonic time. And in fact, in this entire movie, you really don't get Sonic like really fighting until the end. It is mainly a movie about setup and like showing Sonic's speed, right? But you don't really get the action point of Sonic until really the last fight, because I think entirely before that it's just Sonic dodging and going fast, and maybe he does like a spin dash. But I gotta say, man, he just looks so good in the movies. I do think, like I said, looking back at it, there's shots frame when he's just talking and walking where he looks a little weird, and I do think, again, that's the effects of just the having to rig over movie 1 Sonic, right? Whereas in movie 2 and 3 they got a different model to fit some of the actions they want to do a bit more, but it's charming. It's a cute design. I feel like it's really funny enough, it has the better like tan and smile, I think, right? But I think the later movies nailed it a bit better. And you know, there was a moment I asked myself watching the movie, it's like, why can't Sonic just run to San Francisco himself and just get the rings like with like a Google Map app or something, right? But you realize that like Sonic wants to hang out, like Sonic wants a friend, right? And it ends up being one of his bucket list options. They have this fun conversation in the car, be like, hey, what's on your bucket list? What do you want to do? And Sonic just writes down a bunch of stuff he wants to do. And you see later on that he wanted a real friend. And so that I feel like that contextualizes like why Sonic ends up just going on this road trip instead of just running through to get to San Francisco, which he 100% could have. I think he wanted an excuse to get close to someone. He wanted to just hang out, have a friend, do fun things with, and that gets into the bar scene, right? The bar scene is one of the most fun set pieces in the movie, right? Because you get the moment where, you know, they're fighting everybody. You get the slow motion shot, which is, you know, the Quicksilver moment for Sonic where he's messing with everything, and it's cool to see like it press play and then everything happen all at once. But you just get to see Sonic having fun. And like I said, because I've seen movie 2 and we know where movie 3 is headed, I appreciated this movie not necessarily being a crazy Sonic plotline or a Sonic story, because I was like, all right, this is just establishing this character, the rules of this world, how things play out, you know? Whereas like now when we're in these later movies, we're like, oh shit, like this is, now we're getting into like what Sonic really is. And it's cool seeing Tom open up to Sonic, because Tom's never really a dickhead. Like he's kind of just confused, like I don't want to get in trouble because I got this new job coming up. That really doesn't get into play. But there is one moment in the movie that is a little weird, right? Whereas there's the scene in the car where Tom tells Sonic like, I'm gonna go to San Francisco to be a cop, and Sonic gets pissed, right? And he gets really mad. He's like, why are you leaving Green Hill? The people in Green Hill need you. They can call you if they need you. And like, he gets extremely pissy. And I feel like it's like a bit forced, right? And I understand where Sonic's coming from, right? Because Sonic ends up explaining to Tom, like, look, like, I didn't get a choice to be in my home, right? I was robbed of that, right? And so I think he got a little upset when he saw Tom effectively take care of this town, right? And then he was like annoyed or disappointed at the fact that, you know, like Tom doesn't want that life, right? But there's obviously a lot more nuance to that, you know, and they end up figuring it out pretty quickly, because I was worried, right? There's a big worry when you go with a plot line, because we all know how these plot lines work, right? Characters get mad at each other. It forces them to split off for a long time, and then they come together towards the end. But no, the fight between them gets resolved, because in the middle of their fight, they are literally being attacked by an Eggman fight. Again, really cool small scale set piece here with the car chase, right? You have Eggman's vehicle chasing them, Sonic doing the spin dash to hit the car, another car pops out of the car, smaller one, you know, Tom working with them. They hit it with while Sonic is driving, and you know, he hits the brakes and Tom hits a machine. Like, they are just having a fun dynamic, and it's a fun scene overall. And it ends with like one of the egg bombs being on Sonic, and Sonic just kind of gets hit by it because of the impact, and then he's passed out. It's like, they try to do a bit of an emotional scene. I think it's a little too much, in my opinion. I'm like, all right, man, we don't need to have like a Sonic fake out here. But you do see, like, that's really the moment where you can tell Tom feels for the character, right? Where he's like, oh no, like, I can't let this happen. Like, you can tell he's getting attached to him. They drive right away to where his wife is, Maddie, visiting her sister, Rachel, who we all know, you know, wedding scene girly in this movie, establishing right away she's not like Tom. She's like, yo, you are being hunted by the government. I do not want your ass over in my house. So Sonic's passed out in this kitchen, and they kind of, all right, this is the one scene where I'm like, all right, these movies I know have heaps and bounds of weird logic, but like, Rachel's daughter just had a pair of these perfect shoes that were specifically designed for Sonic in her room that she hands him to swap over. Now, granted, I'm happy that Sonic ends up having his shoes, and he does say gotta go fast when he gets up, but it's still like a very like random thing. I'm like, okay, sure. And you can tell, like, I would say that's probably the section that is not necessarily the most necessary. But again, it's, like I said, small scale movie, right? And I, again, love right away that even Maddie is not getting mad at Tom. She's like, Tom, what's going on? Like, you're all over the news. What's happening? And he's like, yo, sweetie, you told me to take care of this animal. Like, I love you. You got to lock in with me. And she's like, sure, let's take care of him. Let's do this. And I really like that dynamic between them that's reinstated, you know? And I wonder if the kid, right? And I don't know what Rachel's daughter's name is. I wonder if she will come into play in movie 3, because she's not really in movie 2 at all. Maybe there will be some parallels in movie 3, right? Maybe Shadow will see her or something. I don't know. I doubt it, because it doesn't feel like she's going to be involved. But, you know, cute little scene between them, cute scene between Sonic and the dog. Again, Sonic is much more playful in these movies. Let me know, of course, in the comment section below how you feel about movie Sonic, at least in movie 1, right? Because I understand that it's not the interpretation people necessarily grow up to know, right? Sonic, for a lot of people, is snarky, right? He's pretty stoic when he needs to be. He kind of does his own thing and then pulls up when he needs to be. Whereas in this movie, he is very much like a kid. Like, it's like a kid making friends. But I feel like because they established it really well, I'm more okay with it. In fact, Sonic kind of dreads the idea of leaving Earth in this movie. He's kind of sad about it, right? There's the moment where they go to the rooftop at the end where he's about to leave, and he's just kind of sad, but he acknowledges, like, hey, if I'm in your world, there's going to be danger, right? But before that, I will say again, really funny movie overall, man. There's this one scene you guys probably saw in the trailers and you see in the movie where they put Sonic in the bag and they're going upstairs and they're like, is that your kid in there? Is that a kid in there? And they're like, no, it's not my kid, you know? And then they're like, wait, so it's not your kid, someone else's? So just some funny scenes. I thought the humor in this movie was really good. Like, between Jim Carrey and Stone, Jim Carrey's humor in general, and Tom, I think, is exceptionally funny in the movie. I think there was some good jokes throughout the movie. Like, I was laughing the entire time. There are, again, some jokes that are a little lame, right? That even Sai makes or whoever, right? But I think for the most, like, you know, Sai will do the thing where he makes his reference and where he's just like, oh, who turned on their Find My phone, right? Or, oh man, it's just like Vin Diesel, like family. But like I said, I'm okay with it as long as it's funny. But the real moment where you really feel like, okay, we're getting into the Sonicisms here, is the sort of final set piece of the movie where Eggman is chasing Sonic throughout the city. I do like that, you know, Sonic pushes Tom and Maddie off the building, goes down, it tosses a ring to help them, and then you see him running through the city, running through the wall. He does the smash pose, he's sliding. Like, that is really when you're like, oh, okay, this is the type of stuff you can do, right? And he's tossing the ring to go to different countries. He goes to the Great Wall, he goes to the desert, and I really love one shot in the desert scene where Sonic is like spinning like crazy, causing a whirlwind to Eggman over there. And it's like, it's a fun scene. It is not a very long scene because, you know how these Sonic scenes are. It's like, because they're speed based, they can't go on forever, especially when he's kind of just running away from him. I think that scene was just very fun and really showed the cool shit they can do with movie Sonic very early on. And then you're hit very quickly with the end game moment, right? Which is, you know, them back in Green Hill, Sonic knocked out, Tom and Maddie, you know, confronting Eggman, being like, yo, this my boy over here, more human than you'll ever be, right? Because Eggman's being like, why would you want to protect it? This is an animal, right? And you get the moment where Sonic locks the fucking big blue eyes energy. I love that scene. I don't know, man. Like, for me, the Sonic lock-in moment of this movie, where even though it is very anime, right? Like, he opens his eyes when Tom is talking about, you know, family, and Sonic's like, I won't let you hurt my friends. He does like the electric beam on, and then he goes to the giant boo boo boo, all the wall jumps that he's doing, which also kind of a video game thing. You know how in the original games you're just bumping onto Eggman's ship a bunch to beat it, which I think is like a nice little nod to that. It's cool. We all know that move that ended up being in Sonic Frontiers, right? The giant attack against Sumo, which was referenced, which is really dope. And then once more, locking him, doing a nice spin dash on Eggman, finishing him off, right? That really ends the action portion. So in general, in terms of action for the movie, it was pretty simple. But again, it shows you how far we've come, right? Because like I said, Sonic doesn't really get into hand-to-hand combat in this game. It mainly is spin dashes and move forwards. Like, he's not throwing hands yet, right? Which again, like I said, I like this movie more looking back now because of that. Because I'm like, all right, now that we have lock-in Sonic for a lot of these moments, right? It's cool to look back and look at more, you know, Sonic learning how to fight. Because he doesn't even fight before this movie. He's never had to. He was a kid before. He was rolling around Green Hill just having a good time. But now he's just kind of living, you know, and he doesn't really fight until this movie for the first time. So it's cool to see him learn his powers. Because, you know, there's that series just like, how'd you do that? I have no idea. Like, that is Kid Sonic growing up there towards it. And yeah, that's really the main plot of the movie. You know, he ends up living with them and finding a family with the Wachowskis, as we like to call them. And the Wachowskis end up staying in Green Hill, understanding Sonic's plea. And in terms of other characters, you know, like I said, you do have the Eggman and Stone dynamic, which I said is really fun. Stone doesn't say as much in this movie. Like, he has his moments and he is very funny. Like, there's that moment where Eggman's just like, put yourself to the wall, and he just kind of chokeslams his own self to the wall. You have Jim Carrey dancing, which is really fun. I really feel like they steal the show, as well as Tom. I mean, I think Tom, Sonic, and Eggman are the stars of the show. Now, this movie does have Wade, right? Wade Whipple is in movie one, and I find Wade Whipple entertaining. But again, the fun of Wade for me is when he is a side character, when he is like, all right, we'll call Wade up for a bit, but it's not overextensive. It kind of reminds me of the Patrick Star show, right? Which is like my issue with Knuckles, of like, when you make the silly, dumb character the focus of the narrative, it's not gonna work, because the whole point is that they're comedic relief. You know, they're meant to alleviate a moment of tension. They're meant to like have a funny moment in between, right? But when it's a whole thing, you're just kind of like, all right, man, I guess. You do have the Olive Garden guy, but he's not really in the movie much besides the beginning and the ending of the movie. And it's funny to look back at him, because again, remember, Gunn is not instated or whatever you want to call it. Remember, Gunn was formed after Sonic movie one, right? When Sonic was on the planet and they're like, all right, we need something for these aliens. They established Gunn. So the accident that happens on the Ark 50 years ago was a military attack, but it was not necessarily Gunn. But obviously, there's going to be key members of that were alive back then, or caused it, that are going to deal with the repercussions of it. And of course, the movie ends with Eggman on Mushroom Hill and Tails coming to planet Earth, which I think the Tails moment is technically a time skip, because Tails shows up, and that's when movie 2 is around starting, where Tails finds Sonic, right when the Knuckles stuff happens, right? But yeah, that's Sonic movie 1. For the most part, man, I've been saying this throughout the video, but very, very fun movie that I look back at fondly. And man, no joke, this movie might have saved this series. I'm not even exaggerating when I say that. Like, I really think this series might have been fun, because you got to remember, right? At this point, think about this. 2017, we had Mania, which was awesome, right? But then we had Forces, right? And then it was kind of like bleak, right? It was kind of like, okay, mobile spinoff. I think maybe Team Sonic Racing had come out. I don't even think it did. Yeah, there was kind of nothing going on. We were in sort of a dire spot over there, right? And we had, again, even movie 1, right? The original design was making Sonic more of a laughing stock. There's just not looking good for our boy. We were getting like 3D, we were still getting boom marketing at the time. And so had this movie not succeeded, this franchise might be really different. I mean, we literally know that Sonic Frontiers got more budget, and we know that the team was even inspired by the action scenes because of Sonic movie. And so if we had not had the movies, man, I don't know, Sonic Frontiers might have been a lesser product, you know. It might have not even been as popular. You know, I remember when Sonic movie came out, it was huge. And I remember at the time, they put Sonic Forces on PlayStation Plus for free after Sonic movie came out. And it became like the second most downloaded PSN Plus game of all time at the time, which was crazy. And I think it really woke something up in Sega, right? That one, people do want Sonic stuff. Like, Sonic stuff isn't not performing well because, you know, people don't want it anymore. Just because the thing is, weren't up to snuff, right? And so after they saw how huge the movie was and how, like, you look at it now, like, look at the rewards we're getting now, right? We're at a trilogy with these movies. We had a successful movie franchise. We have a successful Sonic Frontiers, right? We have a successful Sonic X Shadow Generations. We were able to do stuff like the Year of Shadow. Like, Sega is just in their bag right now with Sonic, and they're still building more and more and more. And you can tell, again, after that movie, they're like, all right, we need Tyson S on board for more stuff. All right, let's get Ian Flynn and the team. Like, let's get people to lock in. Like, everything really felt like it changed after Sonic movie 1 came out, and we are still dealing with the benefits of it. You know, the movies are changing this series forever. They are making them so much bigger than we'll ever realize. And again, this movie doesn't necessarily have too many Easter eggs to the game. Like I said, there's like the Green Hill Zone motif that's at the end of the movie. There's some references to levels like in Sonic's cave. Again, you see Green Hill Zone, but it's really light on the stuff. It's more like references and not necessarily like plot points, which, like I said, is why movie 2 is so important, because it is directly an adaptation of Sonic 2 and 3 from the games. But movie 5 obviously changed, and obviously with Sonic movie 3, we know we're getting a plot lines from Sonic Adventure 2. But guys, let me know, of course, what you think about Sonic movie 1. What are your thoughts? You know, try rewatching and let me know what you think of it. If you have rewatched it recently, let me know your thoughts on it. And of course, next week I will be here with a re-review of Sonic movie 2. I'm excited because I haven't really watched Sonic movie 2 since, I think did I rewatch it last year? I'm not sure. I probably rewatched it like a year and a half ago. So it'll be nice to have it with a fresh lens, because I know things drastically changed then. So guys, thank you all for watching. I love you. And of course, I will see you all next time. Peace out.